Back with another pasta dish, and today brings us something different, something spicy, something a little sneaky, and most importantly, something delicious. This roguish pasta soaks in a tomato broth, instilling spiciness from chili flakes and crunchiness from being cooked directly on a pan. It might sound odd, because it is, but it's also a great dish when you're looking for something different. So roll those dice for a sneak attack, because your taste buds are definitely in for a surprise, and yes, I do love me a D&D pun. Before we start, it's important to note that during this video I'll only be cooking enough for myself, but in a scenario where you have 4 or 5 people, the amount for the ingredients is going to change a bit, so look out for those details in the description below. It's also important to call out that in order to make this dish, you need a large pan to place the pasta in. There will be no, and I repeat, no breaking of the pasta. You break the pasta, I break your face. So, get a 12-inch or larger cast iron pan. Steel will also suffice, but in my opinion, cast iron definitely helps provide a nicer crunch that you'll see in a little bit. The first thing we want to do is drop our tomato paste into a pot of water. This is our tomato broth that we'll be ladling into the pan shortly. We just want to have a nice concentrated broth to provide some liquid and flavor for our pasta to cook in. Give it a stir, turn up the heat. Once it starts to simmer, turn it down to maintain that heat without it boiling over. Once you have that going, get your cast iron or steel pan hot. We want it on a nice medium to high heat, and then we want to cover the bottom with some olive oil. Depending on the pan size will determine the amount of oil that you need, so it may be a tablespoon or 2. Once it starts to warm, but before it gets super hot, add your garlic and your pepper flakes. Mix them around and then add in your tomato puree. Definitely watch for any splashbacks. I should also mention that this dish can get a little bit of messy, so if you're wearing a white shirt, that does come with the possibility that it looks like you actually got stabbed by a rope while making this dish. The can of puree I have is actually 28 ounces, but as you can see, I'm adding just enough to cover the bottom of the pan, which I think turned out to be around 10 ounces. This is going to be the bed for our pasta. It's going to absorb it, mixing with the oil and pepper, and will immediately start to cook. All you have to do at this point is to push your spaghetti down and start to cover it in a nice little grave of tomato puree. Feed the pasta. Cover it as much as you can, paint it down red, go nuts. Now we wait for 3 or 4 minutes until our pasta has absorbed enough puree, and once we get to that point, we check the bottom to see how things are progressing. I don't expect to see any burnt marks yet, but I want to see how well the initial liquids were absorbed. If it's pretty dry on the bottom, it's time to add some broth. A ladle or 2 will suffice, and then we just let things sit. Avoid the temptation to mess around and move the pasta. Let the first couple of ladles get absorbed, and by the time that's done, you should be around the 6 or 7 minutes that the pasta has been fully cooking. Now you can lightly check to see if the pasta is starting to char a bit at the bottom. The charring is what we're looking for. It's what adds the crunch. It's the caramelization of the pasta that's giving us this unique flavor that the dish is known for. Checking both sides, I'm seeing some of the charring, so it's time to flip. Don't worry if you can't flip it perfectly, just make sure after flipping that you get as much pasta as possible to hit the pan and the pastas aren't laying on top of each other. Once flipped and situated, go ahead and add another ladle or 2 to the pan. And now we rinse and repeat. Press the pasta down and wait. Now I'll admit, when I was editing this, I was a bit surprised at how different the pasta looks, and to be honest, the color does start to turn a deep red as everything begins to dry and the pasta absorbs all that liquid. It makes sense that it's called assassin pasta. But I think the sun was also setting a bit, which is adding a little bit to the deep color red that's going on right now. Still, pretty cool effect. At this point, all I'm doing now is giving the underside another quick check to see how we're doing, and the total cooking time is around 20 minutes or so. Knowing this is getting close to being finished, I added one more ladle for good measure. Another thing you can do is just take a small piece and try it out. This pasta is definitely going to taste a little more al dente than what you're used to, but that's okay. If it still feels a little too tough, but you're seeing more charring going on, add a little bit more broth, but maybe turn the heat down late in the game. Wait for the additional broth to absorb, and try it again. Once you're ready, just flip everything around one last time to get the last bit of absorption done, and get ready to plate. Add some parsley, cheese, and a little basil for our rogue to hide behind, and that's really all there is to it. The most difficult thing about this dish is getting a pan large enough to cook the spaghetti. Remember, we no break of the pasta here. Cooking for 4 or 5 people means at least 12 to 16 ounces of pasta, which can fill the pan pretty quickly. The other option is to reduce the amount of pasta per person and add a protein to the dish, like some meatballs or pork or something. Regardless, it's a dish worth trying out on any night, and it's sure to surprise your players. Bring plenty of beverages, as this one turns up the heat and hits you with plenty of flavor. As always, please enjoy, thanks for watching, and may your next session be your best.